Hi Dollar Divas, welcome to Behind the Vanity. I'm Jessica. So today's video is called the Eyeshadow Palette Lovers Tag. So I know I'm not alone in my love for eyeshadow palettes. We have all become lovers of eyeshadow palettes. So I was tagged by my sweet, beautiful friend here on YouTube, my friend Tiffany Desiree. And so me and Tiffany kind of became acquainted, I think earlier this year. Tiffany, thank you so much for tagging me in this. And I'm also gonna have her eyeshadow palette lovers tag video linked down below as well. Definitely go check hers out as well and see her choices for these questions. So before we get into today's video, I do hope that you will hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification. That way you're notified of when videos go up. I usually post Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, normally at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I am gonna be starting a new thing where I'm available to respond and answer comments in real time the first hour that the video goes up, because I've gotten a little lazy in my response time and it's a terrible thing. And so I really wanna make a better effort to be better at that as things in my life have changed over the last several months. So there's that. So definitely please subscribe and hit that bell. Also, the makeup that I'm wearing is from my current makeup basket. I will have my latest makeup basket video linked down below so you can see the products that I am wearing. So definitely check that out. So there are 10 questions in this palette lovers tag that I have picked palettes for. So if you want to see what those choices are, definitely keep on watching. So the first question is, what is a palette that I regret that I didn't buy? And honestly, this was kind of a hard question, but probably the one that I have the biggest regret over not buying is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. And of course, it is discontinued and gone now. Now, I did buy the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette, and at the time, a lot of people were like, you should have bought the Sultry, because it's very, very, very similar. And I kind of wish I had done that at the time, but I have been Urban Decay crazy for so long, and at the time I didn't really know Anastasia Beverly Hills, so I didn't buy it. Now of course I've missed out on it. So, but you know, it's not enough for me to like go to try to find one like on eBay or like pay a crazy amount of money. So if I did want it at this point, there are like a couple companies, I think Alter Ego might be one of them, and I've never tried these palettes, but I've heard really great things about them from other friends that have YouTube channels. There are really good dupes, and there is a dupe for the Sultry palette. So like if I really, really wanted it, like I would do something like that. But I do regret buying the Reloaded kind of instead, I guess. Like I said, I don't have any like real major regrets, but that is one that if I'm thinking back, one that I wished I had purchased for sure. So which takes us into question number 2, which is, what is a palette that I regret buying? So you may think that it is the Naked Reloaded, but really it's not. It's actually in my makeup basket at the moment, and it's not a waste. It is definitely not a waste. I kind of have a new palette that I regret buying, and this is awful. This is just, I hate that I kind of feel this way, but I kind of do. And I'm having slight remorse, I kind of have remorse over buying the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet. Now this is a beautiful palette. It's a beautiful palette, and I have a couple of videos that I will link down below, but a couple of the shadows just aren't as good a quality as I want them to be, considering like that the Naked Heat and the Naked Honey are so good quality. This one just falls a little short. Now, granted, the shade Lucid in the middle is almost worth the price of the palette. It is so pretty and it's so unique. But I was able to dupe it in one of my videos. I did compare this to the Rimmel Magnifies Electric Violet palette, I think it's called. I'll have that video linked down below. But I was able to dupe that shade with that palette, oddly enough. I know, it's crazy. I guess like in a lot of ways, I don't regret buying it. I wouldn't change the fact that I bought it, but I make a lot of really intentional purposes. So regrets, I don't just go out and buy a bunch of palettes and not really think of it. So there really isn't a better option in my collection of something that I regret buying. Like, I really don't have a lot of things that I regret buying, because I do think them out so carefully. So, but if I had to pick one, and probably my most recent one, this one here is probably out of all of them, because I've had so many like palettes that I've bought this year that have been like complete successes. So I would have to put this in there, even though as a regret, even though I don't really regret it and I wouldn't change it, you gotta put something. So this would be it. So question number 3 is, what is a palette that I haven't used as much as I thought I would? So I have 2 answers for this because I just could not decide. Of course, one is the Naked Reloaded. That is one that I just thought I would use it so much more than I do, but I just don't. So this is one for sure. The newer one that I feel like I should use it more than I do. And some of the reason why I don't is because I do a makeup basket, so I'm rotating my palettes out, so I don't just like reach for something that's not in my makeup basket a lot of times. But I would say probably the one I don't reach for as much as I would think I would be the Profusion Mirage palette. Now granted, I love this palette. I mean, this palette is just stunning. I got like a super deal on it. I paid like $8 for it. But there's a little bit of repetitiveness, but it is stunning. But if I have to pick one out of my collection that I don't reach for as much, it would probably be this one for sure. So question number 4 is, what palette have you used more than you thought? And even though I don't use this palette a ton, because again, like I said, I do a bi-weekly makeup basket, so I'm always rotating my palettes out. But one that I think I was a little hesitant to buy it because I was thinking, how much am I gonna use a rainbow palette? I could see myself probably using this every day. I'm gonna go out on a limb. But honestly, it's the e.l.f. J Kissa palette. And of course I have mine customized, and it's cat crazy because I don't have dogs. But again, it's a rainbow palette, and it's a little scary. It is a little scary, but you can take some of these muted shades here, but you can use like this purple muted shade here, Pretty Girl, and this green shade here that's kind of muted, and really get kind of a neutral look, as well as like the yellows. And then, you've got some shimmers here, like the yellow, and this orange here is very non-offensive. If you're not afraid of color, which I'm not, this one I definitely can use surprisingly more than I would have expected before I bought it, for sure. So question number 5 is, what is my favorite half neutral, half color palette? So I do have one answer for this, but I have 2 honorable mentions. So let me show you my choice, and then I will tell you the honorable mentions and how I got to this thesis. So I would have to say it's the ABH Carly Bible palette. You've got your pops of color, and you've got your neutrals, and you got your shimmers and your mattes, and I just kind of feel it's a really good best of both worlds kind of a palette. With that said, do I think a palette can do a little bit better in the color realm? Yes, I do. So for that reason, just a little bit more variety of color, a little bit more completeness of color, because of course the Carly Bible palette, it's got like a peachy and like a pink shade. Then it's got kind of some colorful shimmers. But this is my honorable mention. But the reason why I didn't go with it is because it doesn't really have like an under the brow bone highlight, or really even like a really good inner corner highlight, except for like this one yellow shade. But an honorable mention is the It's My Ray Ray palette by BH Cosmetics. I think this is a really good half colorful, half neutral, half shimmer, half matte palette. You've got your colors here, and they're bright in their own way, but they're also kind of muted in their own way. And then of course you have that whole row of neutrals down there. But of course, like I said, you lack a light shade that the Carly Bible palette has, those lighter shades that this does not. So that's why this one does get an honorable mention, because it is a good solid half neutral, half colorful palette, in my opinion. Then the other honorable mention is the Makeup Revolution Chilled Palette. And the reason why I couldn't pick this as the number 1 is because it's green. I mean, it is green, So if you love green and that is your color and that is your jam, it is a colorful palette. You got every shade of green, every texture of green. There is everything green you could want is in this palette, but then you have all of those neutrals. So I feel this makes a wonderful neutral palette. And like I said, if you like green, it's a great colorful palette too. But of course, the reason why I couldn't pick this is because the color is just green. So it's like green and neutral. But I do feel that this also deserved an honorable mention as well, as half neutral, half colorful. But could not be my number 1. So Carly Bible is number 1 in that category. So question number 6 is, what is a palette that I bought for the packaging? Here's the deal with me. Okay, so for a long time, I didn't care about packaging with products. I was not willing to pay for packaging. Didn't see the point in packaging. As I've gotten older, I appreciate really good packaging now. However, I do not buy something for the packaging. I mean, I'll buy like a high-end palette because I want the palette and the overall product, but I don't just buy for packaging. I don't mind to buy something that's cheap, that has cheap packaging. With that said though, I do appreciate good packaging. So when I do spend on a high-end item, and it comes in a really nice package. I love it. I love it. I appreciate it. So that's where I stand on that. With that said though, I don't really have anything in my collection that I just bought for the packaging. That's never just the sole determining factor in my buying something. So this is, again, you know, with some of my answers, it just can't be simple, but it is kind of simple. So I guess in some ways, I'm a little bit Urban Decay Naked crazy. So in a lot of ways, even though I don't own all of the Urban Decay Naked palettes, again, because I have bought the ones that have appealed to me, in a lot of ways, I am gonna consider an Urban Decay Naked palette always, because, you know, they come in this theme, you know, they have this jam going on. So I guess overall, I would say that I'm always gonna consider a naked palette. Now granted, I have to also want the color story, just like with all my palettes, but I would say that the naked theme and, you know, all that kind of good thing, you know, it's nice to kind of have a little collection. Even though I'm not really a collector, I would say that I've bought if I have to pick something that I've just bought for packaging, it's probably the Urban Decay Naked palette line of palettes. So question number 7 is, what is a palette where I like the shimmers more than the mattes? You know, that was a tough one, but I would have to say my little mini Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. This came in like a little gift set. It's kind of a little sister palette to the Urban Decay Stone Vibes, the bigger palette. And so, I mean, the mattes are really nice. This like white shade or this bone shade here doesn't really show up very much. But the mattes are really nice, but you can't argue with the beauty of these shimmers. I mean, it is just no contest as far as like, if I had to just keep 3 shades in this palette, just give me the shimmers. I've got plenty of mattes in other palettes. So yeah, the little mini Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette for sure. So question number 8 is, what is a palette where you like the mattes more than the shimmers? Again, this was kind of a hard one as well, but kind of once I settled on my choice, I'm very confident in it. So I would have to say this, the Too Faced Gingerbread Extra Spicy palette. I could honestly, and here's what the inside of it looks like, I would say that if I had to pick, like if they were like, do you want the shimmers in this palette or do you want the mattes? I would definitely pick the mattes. Not that the shimmers are bad, it's just that I think overall in the palette, with the exception of like this shade here, which kind of was the determining factor in me buying this palette, I think the mattes have a really nice color story all on their own. And I think the shimmers are a little lackluster. So yeah, if I had to pick just the mattes out of a palette and let the shimmers go, it would be this one right here. So then question number 9 is, what palette happily surprised me? This one was easy. When I bought this, it was on sale. It was like $22 and it was my first ABH purchase. And I kind of feel like out of all the ABH palettes, this is not one of the first ones that people would suggest that I get, but it was on sale and I really wanted to try ABH. So I bought it thinking this might be a mistake. This might be a mistake, but it was not. I put this in my makeup basket and I've just fallen in love with it. I was so amazed at how many looks I was able to create and I can't wait to use it again. And it is the ABH Carly Bible palette. I just, you know, and it's not typically a color story I would go for. It's a little dainty for my taste, but I have just enjoyed it. I think I've used just about every shade. And like I said, when I did my makeup basket, I think I created like 5 looks. They were all different and I never ran out of things I felt I could do. So and it was a very pleasant surprise because like I said, I expected this to possibly be something I regretted buying. But I'm so glad that it's not. I'm so glad that that was a harder question than this one was. So yeah, this palette here really surprised me. It happily surprised me. So then question number 10, the last question is, what palette has the most interesting color story? And I think when I did an eyeshadow palette tag before, I added this category into it because I just thought it needed to be said. And my answer has not changed. Out of all the palettes that I have, big, small, high-end, low-end, I would say for my eyes, the most interesting color story I have in my collection is this little collab Sunset Dreams palette. This absolutely caught my eye, and I paid like $15 for this at Sally's, and I don't regret it. I haven't used it in a little while, but I just think you've got like a very neutral color story in here. Of course, you got 4 mattes, 4 shimmers. You can do some neutral looks. Then you've got 4 shimmers that I just think completely, as far as colors go, they rock your socks off. You got that gold, you got that purple, you got that turquoise, and then you get that duochrome. And I mean, they are just so stunning. And the quality is really good. Like I said, it's a little pricey for a little 8-pan palette, but I do not regret buying this, and it still catches my eye to this day. It absolutely still catches my eye to this day. So yeah, most interesting color story. So I hope that you enjoyed this eyeshadow palette lovers tag. I will link my entire palette playlist down below, as well as my lovely friend Tiffany Desiree's YouTube channel, Instagram, and her video as well. Please go check her out, show her some love. And I'm just inviting anyone that wants to do this to do it. It's so fun. Who does not love an eyeshadow palette video, an eyeshadow palette tag? I'm so glad there's another one. So yeah, definitely join in the fun and do this with us. Again, if you've made it this far and you have not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Also too, if you liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me and my channel out so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.